So today should be able to complete chapter 16. You cannot serve both God and Mammon of the Gospel in accordance with Spiritism. I think it's always refreshing our mind that this is the Gospel in accordance to Spiritism. It's not exactly the Gospel, but it's a book in which Kardec select what he thought to be, of course, being guided by the Spirit of Truth. The most relevant teachings, moral teachings of Christ, and compiled together in this book and bring the instruction of the Spirit and explanation from the Spirits. For the parables that perhaps at one point was necessary, but now the Spirits are able to break them down, right? Almost like make it easy for us to understand. It's almost as the gospel is the gospel for stupid, like the books tells us over there. And we covered most of the chapter already. This today is the last two items that we shall cover, but it's always like to remember the importance of this book. Because we see that's the book in which Kardec brings the most evangelical passages, quotations from the gospel in this chapter, which shows a great importance that Kardec, the Spirits of Truth, and of course Jesus, gives to this problem that we have of prioritize Mammon over God, Mammon of God. And as we had already talking about, we cannot serve both God and Mammon. We need to question ourselves, and I'm putting that up because I think it's very relevant to the reading. What does it mean to serve God? If anyone wants to take a shot of it, that's fine. I mean, you cannot serve both God and Mammon, because if you love one, you hate the other. If you hate the other, you love the one. I take that to serve God means that to seek, to try to do our best, to live our lives in accordance to God's laws, and to utilize the talents placed in our hands in service of the creation and not to self. We just spoke in the studies of the Spirit's book last Thursday that no one is here for idlers. No one is, everyone has a meaningful mission to perform somehow at some level. And by mission, we don't have to think the great missionaries, we can think about the small little steps that may also be called a mission. But everyone serves, everyone is put here to do something valuable, not only for ourselves, but also for others. And quite often, very often, we do something for ourselves. At the same time, we bring betterment to others and to the creation. And I would take that to serve Mammon is to serve self. If you recall that passage in which, and I have said that repeated times, I would like to remind us that when André Luiz was walking to a prison and see that many of incarcerated people, and he sees some evil, but he sees a lot of people who are not really all that bad or that beyond one act that they have for him committed. It's not really horrible people incarcerated there, and that creates a little bit of confusion in the mind of André Luiz, and he asked his mentor, I believe it was Carlos, I don't remember anymore, what is good and what's evil. And the mental response that good is all those things that we think is good, is health for everyone, is good nutrition for everyone, is good education for everyone, is, comfort for everyone, and it's, peace of mind for everyone, is, the minimum necessary to have comfort for everyone, and all those things go on, so on. And then André Luiz asks, so what is evil? And his answer is, it's all of those things for oneself. And I think that deals directly the chapter they're going to see over here, this need for us to be detached from, among the many things, of material possessions, of earthly possessions. One of the things for us to get free of is the self, the ego, or to educate the ego to be in harmony with the self, in which that selfishness can be eliminated from us. The reading is long. I'm going to break down quite a few points, and anyone can, can really see um, the participants. So if you have any comments, any questions, just speak up. Okay, so item 14, detachment of earthly possessions.
Yes. Brothers and sisters, my friends, I have come to bring my small contribution in order to help you advance fearlessly on the path of improvement onto which you have entered. We are in debt to one another. It is only through sincere and fraternal unity between spirits and incarnates that regeneration is possible. Your love for earthly possessions is one of the biggest obstacles to your moral and spiritual advancement. Through this attachment to possessions, you shatter your affective faculties, carrying them over to material things. Be honest with yourselves. Does wealth provide an unmixed happiness? Even when your coffers are full, is there not an emptiness in your heart? At the bottom of that basket of flowers, is there not always a hidden serpent? I understand justifiably satisfaction not felt by a person who, through diligent and honorable labor, has gained a fortune. However, from this satisfaction, very natural and approved by God, to an attachment that absorbs all other sentiments and paralyzes the impulses of the heart, there is a great distance. The same great distance that separates solid miserliness and exaggerated wastefulness, two vices between which God has placed charity, that holy and sound virtue that teaches the rich to give without ostentation, so that the poor may receive without feeling debased. With continue.
No, thanks.
Okay.
Like all the virtues, nothing is a given to us. Everything is conquered through effort, very often repetition, until it becomes natural for us. No one will develop big biceps, sitting on the couch and hoping to have a big biceps. You're gonna have to go to the gym. We're gonna have to lift weight and repeatedly break down muscles to create scar connective tissue between those fibers, so it looks like you have a big biceps. We all like to have this detachment of earthly possessions. The only way they're going to do it is by, first, what you're doing right here now, understand what it means, understand why is it important, and then put it to work until it becomes a natural thing to us. And like all things in nature, it happens slowly, step by step, does not jump big leaps. And like everything in nature is, it should be a natural evolutionary process. And I said it's for us not to feel bad and start beating ourselves because of our still great attachment to our earthly possessions. To do our best to understand ourselves that we are here now because we belong here now. And the things of here now are also important, are all important talents for us to utilize to serve God, not to serve Mammon. And to serve God is to one, improve ourselves, and with that, to serve the creation. And to serve the creation in a very big sense, protect the environment, protect the oceans, protect the rivers, going after those who are in need and give our contribution for the needs of others to the best of our abilities. This is really serving God. And it's very hard to give something that you're very attached to. So the attachment is extremely important here right now, not only when we leave this world behind, but here right now when we have it in our hands and we can properly make a distribution of it, make sure that we do not become inaccessible ourselves. I don't think it's wise, and I think here the Spirit's really clear that it's not appropriate for us to give everything and stay with nothing, then we become independent, we become a burden to others. If we have the strength to be self-sufficient, we need to be self-sufficient. Unfortunately, for many different reasons, some are not self-sufficient. Some will require our help, some will require our attention, and it's very hard to provide that attention, that help, if you are extremely attached to things. So to assist the creation, to be a servant, serving God, we need to detach and make use of all the talents placed in our hands here right now. The idea of, oh, but when I leave this world behind, I'm not going to be attached to everything. That guitar that I love so much, when I leave it behind, I won't care for it anymore. That's not really what this is all about. It is also, of course, it is also. But perhaps if you want to detach when you leave this physical body behind, it's a little bit too late because we waste the opportunity of doing a lot of good with whatever you had here and was attached to it while you were here. So you need to start this process. Again, slowly, step by step, but now it's not something for us to deal with when we discarnate. It's right now, because it's right now that it's valuable in our hands, that it will be valuable in the hands of others. When you leave behind, it doesn't make any sense anymore. And the problem with attachment, as I have said for right now, two things that you consider here is, if all the material possessions, if indeed all those monetary power and money is a very powerful instrument in our hands, we can't deny it. And all the attention that it brings to us. It's all the ability of create even more power with that money, those things in our hand, were so good and bring us so much happiness. One would question why there are so many sad things happens with individuals who have tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount of power. Why is there suicides among such a amongst the rich, among the richest? It's obvious that at the same time that money brings that amount of pleasure and possibilities, it brings tremendous amounts of responsibilities. And when we do not act within these responsibilities, we create a conflict with our own conscience. And this conflict may become even bearable, be a source of unhappiness, or even depression and things like that. So that's why the spirits ask here, through this attachment to possessions, you share your affective faculties, carrying them over the material things. Be honest with yourself. Does not wealth provide an unmixed happiness? And there's exactly that. It's the conflict that you create that now I have so much potential in my hands. I can do so much with the power that I have. But unfortunately, I'm so attached to everything here that I find it extremely difficult to serve God and continue to serve the self. And that conflict with our mind is that provides that unmixed happiness that eventually the unhappiness will prevail and become rich, materially same, but miserably emotionally wise.
Mm.
All right. Comments, questions?
So, Mo,
So, yeah,
I
go ahead.
I'm thinking, when we speak about the poor and those that are rich, and if you look at it, I'm listening to the understanding and explanation you just gave. Being poor is a challenge, and so is being rich. But why is it that so many of us would rather be rich? You know, uh, it's such a challenge. But when you explain it and why we're here, it's not the monetary means of working toward the light of God and doing what we should be doing. So we have to understand and take it in perspective that whatever we receive is what, like you said, is what we need, and be satisfied with it. But always remembering to work, whether you have trillions and millions, or you have much of enough to pay your rent, so be it. But it's a challenge, whichever way you see it. So being satisfied with what you have, I believe, is the best way to see it. Be satisfied and understand why we're here, and what our Christ has shown us and given us to work with. I don't know. I guess.
See, the La Cordiale is clear to us that the problem is not the wealth itself, but the problem is the attachment to the wealth. When he says over here, uh, I understand just justifiable satisfaction it should be felt by a person who, through diligent and honorable labor has gained a fortune. However, from this satisfaction, very natural and approved by God, this is key, to to an attachment that absorbs all other sentiments and paralyzes your impulses of the heart, there is a great distance. So it's not condemned at all,
No.
the wealth itself. You work hard,
Mhm.
the whatever kind of work is the type of work that produces wealth. You are able, wise, you manage it well.
Mhm.
It's a talent that you have. It's a gift. No, it's a gift that you develop for yourself, that you are using it properly. It's good. It's approved by God. Right? Say over here, very natural and approved by God. But there is a big distance of having that build that wealth, having it, and an attachment that absorbs all other sentiments and paralyzes the impulses of the heart. That's where the problem is.
Mm.
Let's put ourselves in this world that we live today of so much technology, of so much things that requires money to have.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with want to have the latest model, I don't know, of cell phone that allows to do so much things, that allows you to perform so much things in that little thing in our hand. We can have the whole world in our hands in terms of communication and watching this and doing that. Is it wrong to want to have it?
Mm.
And in order to have it, you have to work to acquire it. So you work for, if you work to acquire it, it's yours, as you merit, go ahead, no problem. So the problem is not the wealth, the problem is two things, the attachment and the means of acquisition. You acquire through work, and Spirit lives clear, according lives clear to us, through honest work, merited to you. Now, if acquired through a dishonest way, then of course you have make a serious mistake that you're gonna have to deal with the natural laws. So acquisition and attachment, those are the two things. There is a problem. The management of this wealth that you conquered properly, now you should manage in a way that you guarantee your own comfort, of course, but that you also participate in service to God. And to serve God is to serve to serve God is to serve His creation. Is is to serve the community around you, is to try to protect the environment, is do all that we can to protect and to make better the creation around us. Because God needs absolutely love, justice, and extremely humbleness. Let us get credit to everything. And I want it to be like that. He gave us the honey, but let the bees get the credit for it. We need to work to get the credit of what we do. And in this world that we live today, money is an important part, is an important tool, an instrument in our hand to serve God by serving His creation. Now, naturally, not everyone is able to do that. Some of us, as I said, is very limited, and some of us is extremely limited. Not out of laziness, the difference, some just cannot, for physical or mental reasons, to be productive. And it is our responsibility, because we are here now, to share some of our wealth, of our power, to guarantee the well-being of those who cannot. And unfortunately, even for the lazy ones, they will do with the consequences of their own laziness, because no one will escape the divine laws. But it is our duty not to be judgmental and provide to all that we can without being without prejudice and without judgment.
Okay. Okay. Whether your fortune has come from your family or whether you have earned it from your labor, there is one thing that you must never forget. Everything comes from God and returns to God. Nothing on earth belongs to you, not even your poor body. Death will strip you of it, just as it will all other material possessions. You are trustees, not proprietors. Do not delude yourselves. God has loaned them to you, and you will have to return them. And God loans them on the condition that the surplus, at least, should go to those who lack what is necessary. One of your friends lends you a certain sum. However dishonest you might be, you will scrupulously pay off the loan and will be grateful to him. Well, then, that is the position of all who are wealthy. God is the heavenly friend who has loaned them their riches. He asks nothing of himself except love and acknowledgement, but he demands that the wealthy in turn give to the
Also,
give to the poor, who like the rich are just as much his children. The possessions that God has entrusted to you arouse ardent and frantic greed in your hearts. Have you never thought about the fact that when you are immoderately attached to riches, as perishable and transitory as you yourselves are, the day will come when you will have to give an accounting to the Lord for what has come from him? Have you forgotten that? Through wealth, you have been invested with the sacred character of ministers of charity on earth in order to be its intelligent distributors. What? What are you then but unfaithful trustees who you use solely for your own benefit what has been entrusted to you? What will result from your intentional neglect of your duties? Yes, unyielding and unforgiving will tear up away the veil under which you hide, and you will force you to give an accounting to the friend who helped you out and who at that moment stands before you in the robe of a judge. It is in vain that you try to delude yourselves while on earth, coloring with the name virtue, but is often what is often nothing more than selfishness that you call saving and foresight, what is only cupidity and greed or generosity, what is nothing but fidelity on your own behalf. For example, the father of a family abstains from practicing charity. He saves and piles up the gold, declaring that he is doing so in order to leave as much as possible to his children so that they will not fall into poverty. That is very just and fatherly. I agree. And one cannot blame him. But is that always the sole motive that guides him? Is it not often just a compromise with his conscience in order to justify his own eyes and the world's, his personal attachment to earthly possessions? Even so, admitting that his fatherly love is his sole motive, is that any reason for him, any reason for him, oh boy,
to forget his brother and sisters before God.
okay, okay, yes. When he already has a surplus, will he leave his children in poverty because they will have a little less of it instead? Is it not really giving them a lesson in selfishness and hardening their hearts? Instead, is it not stifling in them the love for their neighbor? Fathers and mothers, you are greatly mistaken if you believe that by such means you will increase your children's love for you. By teaching them to be selfish toward others, you teach them to be selfish toward you also. Those who have worked
Okay,
hard.
thanks.
Okay.
So what else? So thanks. So wealth comes to us in more than one way. We speak of developing our wealth through our own hard, honest work, which is approved by God. But there is another way that it comes to inheritance, right? Someone else worked hard, developed that inheritance, and left behind for one of us. And now we have all this power in our hand that we did not produce, but was legally honest, left for us, being for us. We have to do this in our hand right now. To multiply that talent, like in the parable of the talents, to manage that power that was placed in our hand. And in order to do so, we need to educate ourselves, we need to learn. For the father, the uncle, the friend who left that power behind for one of us, they developed that skill. They were good at doing what they did, and they were rather charitable towards us. One may say, oh, perhaps they need to have a choice. We don't know. We're not going to be judgmental here, but we will take that person left this money behind for someone out of love, for being more optimistic. And we are the second responsibility to us now is to have that gratitude to that individual, to honor the hard work of that individual, and do not waste that power placed in our hands. Again, the parable of the talents, if the one who receives the one buried that one talent and did not multiply it, and was banned, was severely criticized by the master, because talents placed in our hands for a good reason, for us to multiply it, for us to make it greater and serve more. So not to think that if someone receives a wealth out of inheritance, or somebody gives them, or perhaps even if you win the lotto, I don't know, then now you have all that power in the hand that you didn't really produce. What seems to be luck, one have to believe in luck. But now you have all of this in your hand, and it is for a purpose. It is for a just cause, and you have to make sure now you get to accept the responsibility of multiplying that talent, serving God, and not solely serving self. That we're gonna leave everything behind, including our physical body, sometimes including relationships that you want to kind of bring back with us when we return to the physical world is the moral and intellectual acquisitions that we gain by utilizing all the talents, utilize all the opportunities that we had here. That is pretty obvious, that commonplace for all of us. I don't think anybody questions that. And we will have to give an account. We're gonna have to have an account of how and what for we use the talents placed in our hands, regardless if it was built built by ourselves or if was left to us already built. Either way, we will have to give an account to this. And the judge is our own conscience, because in our conscience, we already all the divine laws imprinted in it. Um, the issue of assuming responsibility with our offsprings. If children are placed in our hands as a great mission for us to educate them, in it is the education of the moral values, the education of the exercise of charity, the common practice that we all do very often. Do what I say, don't do what I do, doesn't really work. I think that is being proved already that I cannot tell to my kids, do not smoke a cigarette with a Marlboro hanging on my lips. And that doesn't work. Very likely those children will experience with cigarette smoking. And that's being tested already, that's being proven. If you don't want your children to smoke cigarettes, just an example again, do not smoke in front of them, or do not smoke at all. Otherwise, they will follow your example and not what you say. And if you think that we are teaching anything valuable to our children, when we do not exercise charity, when we save every single penny that we have with the skills that we are building a fortune to live for them, for the children behind, through selfishness, what they are learning is selfishness. They are not learning anything else. And then later on in life, they will exercise that selfishness.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that selfishness may bounce back to the parents themselves when now they are perhaps tired, a time of rest and enjoy the satisfaction of their labor. They will see the reward that they get from the children. You'll be the same selfishness that they act. And that's what they learn, that the kids learn from them. And they start to deal with the consequences of that selfishness right then and there, while still here, which perhaps even better, because it may start the process of reparation here already. So the issue of teaching is extremely important. It's another way of utilizing our talents, or talents placed in our hands. Teach kids the necessity and the happiness that comes from sharing, of practicing charity to the best of our abilities. Teach them selfishness, that's what they learn, and that's what they're gonna give back. It's just common sense. Comments, questions?
Okay.
That one was touched home because recently I was talking with other people of my age in regard to wills and what do we do with money and things that we have that just pass it along, and the excess, not just our excess, but excess that would be for excess, the children would have excess. Should we pass it on to those that need it more? So Yeah, everything here always touches home one way or the other.
It does. It does. Um, and the issue of will or what to leave behind, how to share, how little or how big what we have is extremely complex, extremely personal, also, right? Um, One have to be very careful also um, to not to be unfair to all of the ones with a pseudo charity distribute everything everywhere else. I remember a movie that was also quite some time ago in which in the household there is this evangelical pastor. It's in the United States, extremely benevolent and caring and good to his parish members, and people come to his house and you give shoes and everything and giving advice to everything, and it was a horrible person to the immediate family, to the children, and the children was extremely rebellious towards religion because of that, because he was so good to the world. The whole world see the guys as some kind of an angel, and in the household, everybody sees him as the devil. Extremely hard at them. So we have to have that balance, have to be really, really careful with that distribution as well, not to deprive those who perhaps need, you not to satisfy your own ego. When you satisfy your own ego, not only with the material things, but with the desire to be recognized and this and that, was the case of this individual in this movie. He wants to be seen as the great angel to the whole community. He wants to be placed in a pedestal, so to say. But in order to do that, he sacrificed his family in a very unfair way. You need to be careful with that as well. But yeah, I mean, and again, extremely personal. Once one will leave behind it, do we have to leave 100% of everything only for your children? Would be okay, would be fair to take a percentage of it and perhaps give it to your church, give it to the Spiritism Center, give to that foundation that you like so much. I don't know, if you have a member in your family with MS and you'd like to put something on an MS foundation. Is that far? Is it fair? Is it wise? Is it good? Of course, all those things are fair, are wise and good, but extremely personal in a way that you balance things out. Right? And I think that's a very valid point, something that we, getting at the in the age you have to start thinking of those things, put some thought to it, and refer to these readings, refer to these discussions. I think is extremely helpful to us to get it as right as possible. I don't think that I get 100% right, but get as right as possible. Then that you allow us to be in peace with our own conscience. And again, if we educated ourselves, our kids well, if you choose to live, I don't know, a certain percentage, and then a certain percentage, I don't know what that will be, to others except themselves, they will not feel bad, feel angry at you at all, because you educate them properly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Those who have worked hard and accumulated wealth by the sweat of their brow are commonly heard to say that when money is earned, one grasps its value more fully. Nothing could be truer. Well then, may those who profess to fully grasp the value of money practice charity according to their means, and they will have greater merit than those who, born in abundance, know nothing about the hard fatigue of labor. But on the other hand, if these same persons who remember their sufferings and efforts are selfish and hard toward the poor, they are much guiltier than the others. For the more one knows from personal experience the hidden grief of poverty, the more one should be inclined to relieve it in others. Unfortunately, there is always in those who are wealthy a sentiment as strong as their attachment to riches, the sentiment of pride. When the poor employ their assistance, it is not rare to see the newly rich wowing them with tales of their efforts and know-how, instead of coming to their aid and then finishing by saying to them, "Do what I have done." According to them, God's God's goodness has nothing to do with their wealth. All the merit falls solely to them. Their pride casts a veil over their eyes and shuts their ears. In spite of all their intelligence and skill, they do not understand that God can undo them with a single word.
Okay,
Squandering,
okay, that's short reading, but I think it's very interesting the spirits bring to us here. That especially the ones who were able, through honest hard work, live a state of poverty, live a state of severe need to build some kind of wealth, when they get to that level, kind of forget completely where they came from and become harsh at those who one day, who are now where they one day were. Do what I have done, and you also be able to enjoy what I have now. Well, first of all, no one has the know-how, no one has ability, and no one is projected, so to say, but that reincarnation to to be successful as this person has been successful. Um, I'm sure everyone knows someone, if not one of ourselves, who try things, do it the right way, and unfortunately, it just doesn't work for some reason. And even when you put your best effort and something happens and one thing start to go well in the directions, I don't know, the market crash and the money that you put in that specifically company breaks down and things happen beyond you, beyond your abilities, beyond your heart, your best effort. There's a lot of things that happens that is really beyond us. And if for some reason it seems that for something things just go in that direction, a loved one, a child develops some kind of illness that in order to keep that child going, and all your savings goes in the treatment of that very rare, difficult disease. Things happens in life that even with all of our best effort, we don't move up on that social, financial scale for different reasons. So no one will have the the greatness of go from state of poverty and build a wealth, even with the best effort. And those who get there must recognize that they were able, through their hard work, to climb that ladder, that all those things that could have happened did not happen, that they had been spared, protected for so many things that can happen, including death. That could have happened, did not happen, and the individual was able, even through their hard work and to build that wealth, that all those things that is beyond our control did not happen, we were able to conquer that. And you must be grateful that those things did not happen. You must be grateful you were spared of all those things that is happening to people around us every single day. And that individual was able to be spared to get over there. Now, we must imagine that there is a purpose for all of that, right? That if you believe that that happens just by chance, that there is a purpose for that individual be able to climb all that ladders without having obstacles along the way that allow us to reach that position. The one who does that and recognize only his or her own effort and disregard that there was help along the way and there was a lot of things that could have gone wrong. It did not go wrong, and not be grateful for those things and recognize that because of that, he now or she has the responsibility of serving God. You got all those 5 talents, you're supposed to multiply them by 10 now. And that is by serving the community around you. Stand off, point fingers, out of being judgmental, and demand the others follow your steps when perhaps those others are trying, but there are things happening to them that did not happen to the one who was able to reach up there. Those individuals will have to deal with the consequences of that action. Comments? Okay.
Okay. Squandering one's wealth does not show a detachment from earthly possessions, but rather carelessness and indifference. As trustees of such possessions, humans have neither the right to squander them nor to confiscate them for their own profit. Prodigality is not generosity, but is often a form of selfishness. Those who scatter their gold by the handfuls in order to satisfy a fantasy, will not give 1 cent to lend a helping hand. Detachment from earthly possessions consists in appreciating wealth for its true worth, in knowing how to use it for others and not for oneself, in not sacrificing one's interests in the future life on its behalf, and in losing it without complaining if it pleases God to take it away. If due to unforeseen misfortune you become another job, say as he did, Lord, you have given and you have taken away. May your will be done. That is true detachment. First, be submissive, have faith in the one who, having given and taken it away, can restore it to you once again. Courageously resist the discouragement and desperation that paralyze your strength. Never forget that whenever God causes you to suffer a blow, he always places consolation alongside the hardest trial. But remember, above all, that there are possessions infinitely more valuable than earthly ones, and this thought will help you detach from the latter. The less value one attributes to a thing, the less sensitive one becomes to its loss. People who become attached to earthly possessions are like children who cannot see but the present moment. Those who do not become attached are like adults who see the things that are most important by understanding these prophetic words of the Savior. My kingdom is not of this world. The Lord orders none to get rid of what they possess and be reduced to voluntary beggary, because then they would become a burden on society. Proceeding in such a manner would be to misunderstand detachment from earthly possessions. It would be selfishness of another type, because it would imply exempting oneself from the responsibility that wealth weighs on those who possess it. God grants wealth to those who seem capable of administrating it for the benefit of all. Thus, the rich have a mission which they can render beautiful and advantageous for themselves. To reject wealth when God has given it to you is to renounce the benefits of the good you can do by administrating it wisely, to know how to do without it when one does not have it, to know how to put it to good use when one does, and to know how to sacrifice it when necessary, is to act in accord with the Lord's designs. May those who receive what one calls in the world a good fortune say to themselves, my God, you have sent me a new responsibility. Give me the strength to carry it out according to your holy will.
Nice. All right, so one have gained the wealth, the material, the financial power through hard work or to inheritance. Doesn't matter. One gain the responsibility, the merit to manage that wealth, that power. One of the things that you need to be careful is to not practice some kind of pseudo false charity and benevolence when in reality we're only satisfying one personal interest of look good at the eyes of other, of trying to fulfill a totally personal and selfish interest in name of basically wasting, and the spirit puts over here is squandering one's wealth, I'm sorry, does not show a detachment from earthly possession, but rather carelessness and indifference. Charity or benevolence, specifically benevolence in this case, is not only throwing things to others away indiscriminately. You must be responsible for what you do and to whom you share those things, how it will be utilized. Think well. Are you doing more harm than good? Providing wealth to someone who wants to buy, I don't know, guns, is it a wise thing to do? Do I become responsible if knowing that individual has a potential of, just an example, please, buying guns and use it against others, and I still become like generous towards that individual? Am I responsible? Do I share responsibility for what he does with the possessions, with the things that I allowed that person to have? The management of wealth goes beyond given, but how wise we give it. And I think the Spirit stresses that very clearly here to us. Those who got their gold by the handful in order to satisfy a fantasy will not give you 1 cent to lend a helpful hand. So guy gets into, I don't know, and again, just another example, get into a bar and screams out loud, drinks on me tonight. Everyone can drink whatever you want. I'm paying. Put the credit card on the table and say, just charge my card for everyone else. Leaves the bar and someone outside asks for $1 to buy a sandwich, and the guy says, no, I don't have enough money for that. Do you see a discrepancy in the exercise of charity here, of doing good with your power? But inside of the bar, you have become a god. Everybody loves you inside of there right now. And they wish to see you all the time. And they want to wish you to have more money yet so they can drink at your expenses all the time. But have you really helped anyone? Have you really done something really good with your possessions? And again, just bringing examples of the responsibility that we must have in the exercise of the management of the wealth. And then the second part of the discussion here comes with the word faith, right? The word faith, unfortunately, has been used and being understood by us mostly as belief. And very often when Jesus used the word faith, and especially when Emmanuel used the word faith, he's using most another meaning of the word faith that derived from the Greek as well, that is fidelity. Fidelity, of course, brings to us the relationship. So faith to guide my fidelity to God, in my fidelity in my relationship with God. What the relationship of God towards us, because that is perfect, because God is perfect and everything that derives from God is perfect. But what about my fidelity of my relationship with God? I'll try to make it perfect, which is the next chapter we're going to read soon. Be perfect, right? If we, or, or in marriage, if you get married in the Catholic Church, there is what they say, right? In 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 good health and sickness, in poverty and richness, and this and that, that fidelity will you stay stable, right? So the same thing in our relationship with God, my relationship with God, it should be the same, right? It has to be stable regardless of the circumstances. Relationship to God in good health, in relationship, my relationship with God in sickness should remain stable, should be the same. God allow me to, by hard work, climb that ladder and become wealth. I recognize that without God, that without the divine providence, I would not be able to reach there. And for something happen, for whatever reason, something happens, again, the market crashes, there is sickness in the family, and I have to go down all those steps that I climbed up, and now I'm the bottom again. My relationship with God must remain stable, must be the same. It's a marriage. It's my relationship to God should not balance, should not be questioned, should not be weakened by their circumstances. In health, I love God. God is great. In sickness, God had abandoned me. Why God allowed that to happen to me? There's a problem here in my relationship with God, not with God to me. Okay, let's make that clear. I reached I climbed the ladder and reached. So God is so good. God allowed me to get over here. Now I have all this. Something happens. I dropped to the bottom of the pyramid. What is God now? How is my relationship to God? Are we able to repeat the word of Jonas, right? You have given, you have taken away, let it be done according to your will. And remembering Paul of Tarsus, all concourse for the good. So the first question that one would have perhaps would say, yeah, God, you have given, you have taken, let it be done in accordance to your will. Please inspire me, send your workers of goodness to inspire me of what for? What am I supposed to learn with this experience? What am I supposed to gain with this experience? Inspire me to make the best of this circumstance that you now place me. assuming again, that is one of the things, life beyond your control, right? Assume again that it's not because you're going to every single bar in the city, put the credit card on the table and say, drink some me for everyone in house. Then it's your responsibility. God is gonna tell you, well, look what you have done, right? But again, things happens in life that is beyond our control. And if we have that stable relationship, we have that fidelity with God, then we will not allow distress, rebelliousness to overtake our heart. Stand we will ask. We will say, you have given what you have taken, let it be done what your way. But please help me to learn what I have to learn from this lesson. Comments, questions?
Once again, very interesting is charity, responsible charity and irresponsible charity. That's what I get from this. And the consequences follow you. If you give it to a wrong cause, that comes back to you. It's just not because we continue our deeds stay with us.
That's right. It all comes back to us. And can you even call it charity, or should we call it wasting? Right?
Right.
Yeah. I rather call it waste, just not to kind of corrupt such a beautiful word as charity.
So there's a responsibility to, I would think of it as a responsibility as one way I think, well, am I responsible to, if the charity that I give to doesn't do well with what I give them? But if it's within my ability to ascertain that that the charity or whatever thing I'm donating to in whatever manner is not I don't know the right word, but it's not going to do right by it. It's on me. Yeah.
Yes, another thing you go with what you know and what your intentions are, right? There's always the question, and I think everyone has questioned that. The person drinks and sitting on the side of the bar and ask you for $1 to buy food and say, I'm not gonna give because I know you're gonna buy alcohol. There is a debate, and I don't have an answer. Well, that alcohol may need that alcohol to survive. You may be producing charity of giving $1 to that guy to buy the alcohol that he needs, not to withdrawal, because alcohol withdrawal can be deadly, right? We need to think of that as well. No, I'm not going to give Kurt to buy alcohol. No, he needs that alcohol until he's treated, he or she. He needs it. Can he and she be treated? Yes, there is treatment for it. But until we get there, they need it. The one that is abused heroin, he needs that opioid. If he doesn't get it, there's a high risk of dying of a withdrawal. That's why you have methadone clinics out there to replace the heroin with another heroin, basically, but at least it's like legalized, it's managed somehow. Is this the best answer? I don't know. That's debatable. Not in my opinion, but it's a step forward at least, I'd say.
With that example of a bar, drinks for everybody, you take it further, and then there's a person who has reached their limit, and now there's a free drink, and then they go out and they drive and they injure or kill somebody. The consequences of that are grave and are easily connected. I mean, it doesn't take a large leap to get to that conclusion either. So a lot of responsibility every which way.
Every which way, that's correct. But again, the guy asks for the money to buy food, and you don't know what's going to do with that money. You give the money with the intention that you can buy food, is the best for you. You carry no responsibility of what the person does, which is different. Again, you want to show off, you want to be the good guy, you want to be the top guy in the bar and free drinks for everyone. Yeah, you assume responsibility right then and there. Because again, everything goes with the intention, or almost everything goes with the intention. You carry responsibility of the drunkenness of that person who committed an accident because of it. You share responsibility with that. Right. So it is complex. It's extremely complex. But it comes to the knowledge. When you know that guy is getting money to buy guns, are you going to participate on that? You know, but if you don't know, if a guy is lying to you and you don't carry responsibility, so it's what you know and what your intentions are. You just give it because you want to be looking good or look at the good guy around. Yes, you do carry responsibility on that. So it does come to understanding, to knowledge, what you know, what you don't know, and what your intentions are. There's a lot of, and the idea, don't give the fish, teach how to fish. Well, sometimes, like Mother Teresa would say, my pores are so weak that I have to give the fish first, and then you can go ahead and give them the fishing pole and teach him how to fish. Because right now it's so weak, it cannot even hold that fishing pole. So again, it comes to it, to intentions and what you know, and what you're understanding. And this is the thing that is somewhat hard in Spiritism is this word responsibility, right? It's much easier to place responsibility upon somebody else, but in Spiritism, they ask you to be smart, to be intelligent, to think, and when you act to serve God, do it wisely.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. My friends, this is what I wanted to teach you regarding detachment from earthly possessions. I will summarize it by saying, know how to be content with little. If you are poor, do not envy the rich, because wealth is not necessary for happiness. If you are rich, do not forget that your possessions have been entrusted to you and that you must justify their use as if you were giving an accounting of expenditures. Do not be an unfaithful trustee. Do not be an unfaithful trustee by utilizing your possessions to satisfy your pride and sensuality. Do not think that you have the right to dispose for your sole use what is nothing but a loan and not a gift. If you are unable to repay it, you do not have the right to ask for it in the first place. And remember that those who give to the poor are settling a debt that they have contracted with God.
I think it's so simple, so beautiful. It's even hard to add anything to it. Be content with the lead you have. absolutely right. But also with the caveat that, as I said last Thursday in this Thursday Spirits book, be comfortable with your limitations, but do not be limited by your limitations. Do not fear wealth. Do not fear having more because now you have more responsibility. Accept the responsibility. If it's given to you, it's for a reason. If you are able to build that wealth, it's because, again, as we discussed before, you're expected to do something good with it. If you were able to climb that ladder from being in great need to the position of being the one in great power to distribute, a lot of things worked in your favor beyond your control. Even with all your hard work and doing everything right, things could have gone wrong somewhat. And it is for a purpose. It's not the gratuity of destiny. There is no such a thing. Now you're under responsibility of that proper distribution, remembering where you come from, remember those who are still there, and do your best to help those to climb the ladders, that ladder themselves. Be faithful in your fidelity, in your relationship, in that marriage with God. Remember, it has to remain stable and and prevail will be stronger than all the circumstances of life. If you're rich, you love God above all things. If you're very poor, you love God above all things. If you're very rich and become poor, you continue to love God above all things. And that fidelity is what will keep you in absolute peace with your own conscience, which it is, according to the spirits, in the spirits book, all the happiness that we can conquer in this world of trials and expiations.
Okay. The transmission of wealth. 15. Does the principle according to which humans are only trustees of the wealth that God has allowed them to enjoy during their lives take away their right to transfer it to their descendants? After their death, people can rightly transfer what they have enjoyed during their lives because the effect of such right is always dependent on the will of God, who can prevent their descendants from enjoying it whenever he wants. That is why we see apparently solidly established fortunes crumble. The will of persons to keep their wealth in the hands of their descendants is therefore powerless. Although this fact does not take away their right to transfer the loan they have received, since God will take it from their descendants if he deems it appropriate. St. Louis.
Okay, so we developed something, a lot or little. Once this physical body dies, the process of discarnation starts. You go back to the spiritual world, and we're not going to bring anything, however little or great wealth. What are you going to do with that? It's going to be left behind today by law, by the family. If your marriage is going to directly go to the wife, if you haven't written nothing before, if you're not married, it's going to go to your offsprings. If you don't have anything, you're going to go to the government. That's the way it goes here, right? So you smart, be smart, and I have to do that myself. Be smart, and everything's written down. What you want it, what do you want to happen with the things that will hopefully be completely detached when you go back to the spiritual world, that we will not miss anything or almost anything, that will be totally comfortable and leaving everything behind, understanding no longer needs anything here. That when we are in college, when in school, when we go back home, we don't need, bring things with us, except the knowledge that we gained while the time that we spent at college. So you better off right and live for someone else. Now, do we have a responsibility? Again, knowledge, what you know, and intention. Right? Educate the children as well. So when you leave things behind for them, they'll do good with it. If you educate children as well, leave things behind for them and they don't good with it, it's their responsibility, not yours, not yours. You have nothing to be scared of. And as we said before, things happen that is beyond our control. So if the divine laws, if the divine plan, so it's not for the ones that are left behind to have that easy access to that wealth, things happens. Things happens again, right beyond our control. It's a market that crashes, is, I don't know, natural calamity. All your wealth was in that place by the river, and the rain's coming in and washed out everything, and there's a problem with insurance and you lost everything, and things happens in many different ways, in many different possibilities. And these divine laws know that we usually say God over here has means of manage things in a way that if somebody leaves a wealth for me, but I'm not supposed to have it, things will happen that, and I will not have it. But it always, again, with a purpose, for a reason, and always concurring for the good, always leading for something good. And that goes my fidelity with God. Somebody giving me wealth, I never got to enjoy it. My relationship stays stable. I still love God above all things. Comments, questions? I think I did a good thing in the chapter. Be right to start, be perfect. It's a wonderful and a wonderfully hard chapter for us next month. But thanks everyone. Many thanks for the participation. Always welcome and valuable. And Carrie, you make a final prayer, please.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Elmo, and thank you everyone for the participation today. Great class. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks for the opportunity to be together today as brothers and sisters for our study of the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 16. We are truly grateful to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding us and assisting us to receive the blessings and to learn the applications of the teachings. Let us release our pride, selfishness, and attachments to our possessions. Remember that all physical things will pass, including our body. Life gives us many opportunities to be of service. Remember that charity is the highest virtue, which is love in action. With humility and work, we can apply this through the law of circulation. May we practice the golden rule and share our time, talent, and treasure through discernment. Share your goodness and giving each day. We offer our heartfelt prayers globally to those who are in need at this time. We wish for them and we pray for them help and assistance and healing as needed for each individual. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and may we return safely to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We remind ourselves to continue with our prayers and studies and mindfulness throughout the week. As we close now, may we go forth in gratitude and peace. So be it.